You end in your retirement years, and everyone says you're supposed to go out there and volunteer and give back to the community. Well, how do I do this? Who do I talk to? Now, there are some resources that you can tap into. One way, United Way is a very good way to kind of get a feel for what's going on out there. But that's where I also think you talk to your network. You think do a little bit of introspection, and remember also this person who's been working all this time, and it's not too tied into the volunteer community or tied into the community. They haven't been spending a lot of time in introspection either. Life is busy. It's hard to spend time saying, "Well, what is my purpose? What is my calling?" And then, you go, well, okay, what is my purpose? So again, you have to get out there, you have to talk to people. And then I think you do start volunteering, but you volunteer with a slightly different mindset.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman. Not Born Yesterday examines the problems and solutions of growing older today. We bring you the wisdom and voices of experts in the field of aging and offer tips on how to feel your best, use your lifetime skills and experience, and make the coming months and years as fulfilling as possible.
I'm Lynn Winter Gross. Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village SF, a local nonprofit providing older adults with support to help age in place.
Today on Not Born Yesterday, we're talking about unretirement, the act of returning to the workforce after retirement, either by choice or necessity. This trend is becoming more common around the world, especially among aging populations. Unretirement is not the same as not retiring at all or changing to a different type of work. It's part of a broader shift in attitudes about work and retirement. Until recently, when most people retired, they left their jobs completely. But current studies show that close to half of current working adults are rethinking their retirement years and staying in the job market.
Today, we want to examine the reasons why and the effect that this phenomenon has on society. Our guest is Chris Farrell, Senior Economics Contributor for American Public Media's Marketplace. An award-winning journalist, he's the author of the book, Unretirement: How Baby Boomers Are Changing the Way We Think About Work, Community, and the Good Life. Welcome to Not Born Yesterday, Chris.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, let's start with the premise that baby boomers are changing the way we think about work. I mean, we've been saying for years that baby boomers have changed the way we think about everything. But now if we're talking about work, is it because we're living longer, because some of us need the income, or are just many older adults just not prepared for life after work?
Well, it's all those reasons. I mean, I get asked this question a lot. Are people doing this because they want purpose and they want to get involved in things, or do they need to do it? Do they want to do it? Do they need to do it? And my answer is that for most people, it's both. It's both purpose and a paycheck. And obviously there's a group of people that are wealthy enough that they don't have to work, but typically they enjoy it. And then there is a large group of people who worked at companies, never had a retirement savings plan, never had health insurance from their employer, and low wages throughout much of their life and a lot of up and downs in their career. And they typically have to work longer, to supplement their Social Security. But for a vast sort of of the middle class, the working class, for the vast numbers, I think it reflects some fundamental changes in our economy and society, and it also reflects the need to pay the bills.
How did COVID play into this when I've heard 2 million people retired during COVID and missed the emotional and structural benefits as well as the financial ones, and they're now unretiring? How did COVID affect all that?
The labor force participation rate of people 60 and over, 65 and older, 70 and older was going up. And it was going up pretty dramatically. And then COVID hit. And then obviously, a lot of businesses shut down. We moved into our homes. And because older people were more vulnerable to the pandemic, there was an extra incentive not to go to work. And so, that had a genuine impact. And so people have been going back to work. There is the unretirement movement has is still exerting its pull, but not quite to the extent that it was before the pandemic. It seems to be gaining momentum. And I think there are three reasons. One, if you owned your own home during the COVID years and post-COVID years, your home is appreciated enormously in value. If you have a retirement savings plan, a 401k, 403b, it's increased enormously in value. So you didn't have that real pressure to go back to work as quickly, but we are seeing the unretirement movement kick in and more people going back to work.
So, if the next generation is going to live to 100, there seems to me there's going to be a lot of changes needed both in attitude and in opportunities. Is this whole transformation thing going to be good for business or bad for business?
Oh, I think it's absolutely good for business. Now, one of the issues that everybody has to deal with the aging of the population, aging of the workforce, is age discrimination. It's widespread. It's, how many people have sat in a meeting and someone will go, oh, I can't remember what is his now. I'm having a senior moment, right? And people don't even think about it. They just sort of say that. Now, I think it's happening less and less, but it's still really happening. So age discrimination is absolutely real. But economic pressures is pushing management to change the way it looks at its older workers. I have white hair. So 20 years ago, with my white hair, walking down the corridor, and in the typical business, the CEO or the CFO would have walked by me and said, I wonder when that person's going to retire. Now, when that CEO, CFO walks by someone like me, they're saying to themselves, how can I keep this person around for a few more years? Because I need them to mentor my younger generation, because I can't lose these skills. And one of the really striking changes in the backdrop is we have a really low unemployment rate and the labor force is not growing. The growth in the labor force is really coming from the older generation. The Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that in the decade ending in 2032, that 57% of the job growth will come from the 65 plus population. So it's a really mixed bag. It's a mixed picture. But if you look at the sort of backdrop, companies want to compete. They want to make money. They want to be able to take on new businesses. They want their revenues. And what they are realizing more and more is that the older worker, rather than being this doddering person that you need to push out the door as quickly as possible or at a sort of humane moment, you now realize that they're creative, they're engaged, they can innovate, they can solve problems, they have a stock of knowledge, they can help train the younger generation, and they learn from the younger generation. It's not just a one-way street, it's a two-way street. And so how do we keep them around more?
So what we hear, though, is that older workers cost more and they don't have the updated skills. So why should I keep an older worker on when I can get a younger one at half the price who knows technology?
Right. So this is the thing with the technology and the skills is largely a myth. I mean, you think about, just take a look at the baby boom generation. So my first office job, it was in the 1980s, and I had an IBM Selectric. And, it was really, really nice. But we went from the IBM Selectric to the dedicated word processor, to the desktop computer, to the laptop, to the iPad, to the smartphone. We've adjusted to all these technologies. So I think it's largely a myth that people don't want to learn new technologies, can't learn new technologies. It's about staying in the game. Now, it's also true that training as workers get older, sometimes there's not as much training going on. Companies need to be doing more training for their older workers. But I think the technology thing is a complete myth. And the generation, the 50-year-old today, they're more technologically savvy about what's going on. And I was interviewing, this just a couple of years ago, one of the major consulting firms. And they used to have at age 50 a course for their consultants, who travel around the world. They had to be really adroit with technology. And they had a class at 50 that would kind of like bring them up to speed with what was going on. And what they realized is that they changed that class and started at age 30. Because, yes, when they hired these young consultants, they came in, they knew all the technology, but they're traveling all the time. They're working all the time. They're starting their families. They have their homes. And it turns out that they don't keep up with the technology quite the way that they did as when they were younger and didn't have a lot of these responsibilities.
I should tell you that I have family members who work in advertising, and they are told basically after 40, we don't think you're creative. You have to go into management or you're out of here, which is pretty sad.
If you're creative in your 20s, you're going to be creative in your 30s. And if you look at, in my book, I write about Matisse. I went to a Matisse exhibit in New York, and it was the wonderful posters that he did, with the cutouts, and there's the pool, and there's the blue nude, and all this kind of stuff, kind of what we think is the height of his creativity. And he did it from a wheelchair in his bed, and the last decade of his life, age 74 to age 84. And most artists, art historians consider that the height of his creativity. And what they have realized is that many, many artists who are creative in their 20s, they actually do better work in their 30s. They get better work in their 40s, and they continue to improve.
Well, considering that men and women often have different histories with their careers, because many women take time off either for caring for their older adults in the family or caring for their children, and then they go back in. But have you found any differences in men and women's reasons for retiring?
Yes, and I think this is the first generation, when you look at the baby boomers, the first generation where women are retiring from careers. Now, always had jobs, always worked. But this is, college age educated women graduated from college, went in and had a career. Those careers had a lot of ups and downs, and lower pay, all kinds of discrimination, all kinds of issues, plus leaving the workplace for a while, then coming back. What it turns out is that these women are really in the forefront of rethinking aging and retirement. And part of it is they need to continue to work. They need to continue to get that income coming in. But they also have a set of skills, networking skills, an ability to sort of really think not about I and my job, but I have a set of skills. Now, I may do this set of skills in this for-profit company over here. I may use this set of skills, give it a different label, and move over this not-for-profit company over here. I'm using gross generalizations, and I always have this intellectual rebellion against that, but I will use it. A lot of men are much more driven, or they have their career, they have their job, and so that when they reach the stage of retirement, they don't actually have the same set of skills about networking, about understanding what my skills are, about being able to take a job that maybe pays less, but provides some different opportunities or may open new doors for you. Everybody's doing this experimentation, but women, in a sense, have to work longer if they can, if their health holds up, but they also, many of them have a set of skills that enable them to work longer.
So when you talk about unretirement, I assume you're talking about people who've left their traditional jobs and are now looking for something new. So how do you go about finding what that next phase is going to be in your life?
Yeah, the best place to start, the most valuable asset that an experienced worker has, you're nearing your time. What's your most valuable asset? It's not your 401k, it's not your 403b or your IRA. It's the network of people that you know. People that your colleagues, your former colleagues, your friends, members of church or temple. I mean, what we call your network. And, your network knows you. And part of this exploration, I think, is to go to your network and say, what do you think that I would be good at? What do you think is my skill set? And to really tap into your network, which, by the way, parts of your network either have gone through this process or they may be also going through this process. And so you want to, tap into your network, spend the time, do a little introspection. And I think one of the things as you're near retirement to do is, take half an hour, 15 minutes a day, just to jot down about things you think you might want to do. Something no one's ever going to read. So you don't worry about the language. You don't worry about whether it's, well crafted or anything, but sort of think about what it is you want to do and then go out and talk to people. Because you know what, if you have an idea about what you want to do, somebody's doing it. And go talk to them. And most people will say, yes, I'll meet with you for a cup of coffee and a little bit of information. And find out what it's like, get some real information. But I think your network is going to do two things for you. It's going to help you figure out what it is that might come next. And
I
then
want
it's actually going to help you get the job. The way you're going to get a job is someone's going to say, you should go talk to so and so. And that's how you're going to get a job.
You use the word community in your subtitle of your book. And on this podcast, we talk to people all the time about being involved with their community. And maybe it's hard for people who have been so involved in their work and their family, and they don't know how to do that, how to get off the couch and get out there and do something. Do you have any advice for them?
Yes. And I think for them, what I think it is, there's kind of this idea. So just what you described, someone's been working a lot. And they probably have done some volunteering, but they haven't really been that serious about it. So you end in your retirement years and everyone says you're supposed to go out there and volunteer and give back to the community. Well, how do I do this? Who do I talk to? Right? Now, there are some resources that you can tap into. One way, United Way is a very good way to kind of get a feel for what's going on out there. But that's where I also think you talk to your network, you think do a little bit of introspection. And remember also this person who's been working all this time and, it's not too tied into the volunteer community or tied into the community. They haven't been spending a lot of time in introspection either. Life is busy. It's hard to spend time saying, well, what is my purpose? What is my calling? And then, you go, well, okay, what is my purpose? So again, you have to get out there, you have to talk to people. And then I think you do start volunteering, but you volunteer with a slightly different mindset. But, we've got how many transitions have people gone through in their lives? Going to school, graduating school, finding a career, finding a partner. We have gone through so many transitions. Why would this transition be any different? So again, it's curiosity, it's experimentation, it's meeting new people, opening new doors, because you may have a cause that you do really believe in, but you've met some people. And they probably know some other people in another organization in the community, and you go meet with them. And that's how you start building a new network. You start building some new information, and you figure out where it is that I can get the kind of satisfaction that I want.
What about AI and how that's going to replace jobs and robots that are replacing jobs? And is that something that people who are worrying about should worry about when they think about going back in the labor market? Like what jobs that I might have applied for are now going to be replaced?
I think that is a constant. I mean, I think the way I look at AI is it's like the computer, it's going to supplement. And AI has may just have an incredible ability to supplement what people do, but we also know technology always creates new jobs. Rather than being worried about AI or any form of technology, understand that it is going to change the job market. You just have to be aware of it, but always remember you have skill. What is your skill? Not what is your job. Your job may be eliminated, but that doesn't mean your skill has been eliminated.
Talking about unretirement reminded me, and maybe this happened more in California than in other places, but there were all these people who were skilled and educated who were dropping out. There were doctors and lawyers who wanted to go make jewelry or live at the beach or something like that. Is that different from unretirement in a way?
Well, I think they're essentially the same or they're closely associated because, rather than thinking about retirement, and by the way, the word retirement still signifies full-time leisure. If I say the word retirement, that's what people think about. So what you're describing are what I would call unretirement. So you're leaving behind something and you're moving towards something else, something that you believe will provide you with more satisfaction, or you always wanted to be a potter and you want to see if you can make a living as a potter. And you've been working in the CFO's office as one of the finance people, and you've been doing that for 25 years. And it's just time to try something. You want to get something. You want to get your hands dirty. You want to create something. You want to see, will people buy my stuff? And so, yes, I think that's the exact same motivation. And the thing about it is what we're realizing that when you do that, that may work again for a couple of years. And then it may be, hey, maybe I want to try something else. And again, I think it's all about acknowledging that you can be creative and you can have purpose. You have a lot to give and doing different things, being engaged in your community. Some of it may bring in some extra income. Income is always nice. Income's a wonderful thing. It helps you pay the bills. That's really good. And it means if you have retirement savings, you got to live off those retirement savings for a shorter period of time. So income is a wonderful thing. But being engaged, using your skills, using your knowledge, using your experience in different ways, in ways that perhaps when you were 30 years old, you never thought, or maybe when you were at college and you're having one of those midnight conversations about life and what do we think really matters and what's really important. And now you're 65 years old and you recall that conversation, you remember what you said, and you go, okay, now's the time to do it. Will it work? Who knows? But it's an adventure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us. Our guest was Chris Farrell, author of Unretirement: How Baby Boomers Are Changing the Way We Think About Work, Community, and the Good Life.
Thank you.
Today on News You Can Use, we're talking about preventing a fall. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 adults over 65 will fall this year. One can fall getting out of the car, walking on uneven terrain, or even reaching for something high. Falls often lead to severe injuries like hip fractures, which are hard to recover from as we age. But perhaps worst of all, after a fall, many older adults begin to limit their activities. Studies show that people with better balance are more likely to live longer, healthier lives. It's not just about avoiding falls, it's about maintaining the freedom to move and enjoy life.
In addition to putting non-slip rugs in our hallways and bathrooms and making sure that our floors are kept free of slippery objects, a good balance training program will help keep our bodies stable and reduce the risk of accidents. To improve your balance, don't try any fancy or expensive equipment. You don't need it. Just a few exercises will help. Try one of these. Balance on one leg. Just a few minutes a day of doing several 10 to 30-second bouts of balancing on one leg is a great place to start. If you want an added challenge, try to keep your lifted leg still at 90 degrees in front of your body. Or even a more advanced challenge, try for a 30-second single leg balance with your eyes closed.
Walk heel to toe in a straight line for 20 steps. This narrowing of the stance while walking will challenge the balance system in a dynamic way, which will help you when walking on uneven ground. Now try walking those same 20 steps with all your weight on the front of your foot without letting your heels touch the ground. The idea is to activate your calf and ankle muscles while also challenging the balance system. If this is too difficult, try to do this standing for 10 to 20 seconds without letting the heels touch the ground.
As always with exercise, the key is consistency. Integrating these simple exercises into your routine can significantly improve your balance, mobility, and quality of life. Start small, stay consistent, and you'll reap the benefits for years to come. You'll be amazed at how quickly your balance will improve. And remember, we're not medical experts, but we like to share the secrets of living well. If you can improve your balance, please let us know.
And once again, try not to let fear of falling limit your life experience. If a walker or a cane will help you, remember, they don't make you look old, they make you look smart.
And that's our podcast for today. Our thanks to our guest, Chris Farrell. You can learn more about Next Village SF at their website, nextvillagesf.org. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and Jason Dahlstad is our engineer. And thank you for listening. We would love to hear what you would like us to discover and discuss. Please contact us at notbornyesterdaypodcast.org. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All of these are free, and they help us to know our audience better. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.